The massive doors of the execution chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Taesung stumbled forward, his hands bound in energy restraints that burned against his wrists. Two Vrexian guards pushed him from behind, their clawed hands rough against his shoulders. He tried to keep his balance, but his legs were weak from months in a prison cell. The chamber was enormous. The walls stretched up so high that Taesung could barely see the ceiling. Purple light filled the space, casting strange shadows everywhere. Hundreds of Vrexian officials stood in rows along the sides, their three eyes all focused on him. They wore robes of different colors, each marking their rank in the empire. None of them looked at him with anything except hatred. At the far end of the chamber, on a throne that seemed carved from a single piece of black crystal, sat Queen Naravel. Taesung had never seen her in person before, only in propaganda videos that played in his cell. She was tall, even sitting down. Her skin was a pale blue color that seemed to glow in the purple light. She wore armor made of a metal Taesung didn't recognize, and a crown of sharp points rested on her head. Her three eyes were like pools of liquid silver, cold and endless. The guards forced Taesung to his knees in the center of the chamber. The floor was hard and cold beneath him. A circular pattern surrounded him, glowing symbols that he guessed were some kind of ceremonial marking. This was it, he thought. This was where he would die. He had known this day would come. Ever since the Vrexian fleet appeared in Earth's orbit 3 years ago, humanity had been fighting a losing battle. Earth was gone now, nothing but debris floating in space. The colonies had fallen one by one. Proxima Station, where Taesung had made his last stand, was the final human stronghold. When it fell, most of his unit died in the explosion. He was one of the few captured alive. For 3 months he sat in a cell barely large enough to stand in. They fed him just enough to keep him alive. They questioned him about human tactics, about remaining resistance cells, about anything that might help them hunt down the last scattered survivors. He told them nothing. What was the point? Humanity was already finished. Queen Naravel stood up from her throne. The movement was smooth and deliberate, like a predator deciding to strike. She walked down the steps toward him, each footstep echoing in the silent chamber. When she stopped in front of him, Taesung could see his reflection in her armor. He looked terrible, thin and dirty, with a beard he hadn't been able to shave in months. Taesung of Earth, the queen said. Her voice was strange, like multiple voices speaking at once. All Vrexians sounded like that, something about their vocal structure. You have been brought before me to answer for crimes against the Vrexian Empire. Taesung said nothing. What could he say? Yes, he fought against them. Yes, he killed Vrexian soldiers. They invaded his home. They murdered billions of people. If that was a crime, he was guilty. Your species has proven to be a threat to galactic peace, the queen continued. She began to pace around him in a slow circle. You refuse to surrender. You turn our own weapons against us. You inspire rebellion in other species that we have brought under our protection. You are adaptable, resourceful, and dangerous. Taesung almost laughed at that. Dangerous? Humanity had been crushed in 3 years. Earth was destroyed. How was that dangerous? For these crimes, the queen said, stopping in front of him again, you will be executed as an example to any humans who still resist. Your death will be broadcast across the empire. It will show everyone that resistance is... She stopped mid-sentence. Her silver eyes had moved down to his chest. Taesung followed her gaze and realized she was staring at his pendant. It was a simple thing hanging on a worn chain around his neck. The metal was dark, almost black, with symbols carved into its surface that seemed to shift when you looked at them. He'd worn it for so long that he barely noticed it anymore. The queen's expression changed. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened slightly. Around the chamber, Taesung heard whispers starting among the officials. Something was wrong. The queen looked like she had seen a ghost. Where did you get that? The queen asked. Her voice was quiet now, barely above a whisper. The multiple tones in it made the question sound almost desperate. Taesung looked down at the pendant again. I found it. On Mars before the war started. Found it? The queen stepped closer. Her hand reached out, then stopped like she was afraid to touch it. That is impossible. That symbol? Do you know what you wear around your neck? Just a pendant, Taesung said. He was confused now. Why did she care about a piece of metal? The queen straightened up suddenly. She turned to face the assembled officials. Everyone out, she commanded. Now. The Vrexians looked at each other, confused. One of them, an older male with scars across his face, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the execution is postponed," the Queen said, her voice sharp as broken glass. "Leave us. Only my personal guard remains." There was a moment of hesitation, then the officials began to file out. Their whispers grew louder as they left, echoing off the walls. Taesung watched them go, his heart pounding. What was happening? Why had a simple pendant changed everything? When the chamber was empty except for 6 guards stationed at the doors, the Queen knelt down in front of Taesung. He flinched back, expecting violence, but she just stared at the pendant with something that looked like fear. "The seal of the firstborn," she said quietly. "It has not been seen in this galaxy for 3 million years. Our scholars believed it was only a myth." "I don't understand," Taesung said. The Queen's eyes met his. The firstborn were the original architects of galactic civilization. They created the foundations that every species in this galaxy has built upon. Before they disappeared, they left behind prophecies. One of them spoke of a chosen protector who would carry their seal. This protector would emerge from a new world, and they would either unite the galaxy or destroy it. Taesung felt his blood turn cold. "You invaded Earth because of a prophecy?" "We invaded Earth to prevent the prophecy," the Queen said. She stood up, turning away from him. "Our scholars calculated probabilities. Earth was young, isolated, developing faster than it should. The mathematics pointed to your world as the birthplace of the protector. We could not take that risk." "So you killed my entire species," Taesung said, anger flooding through him. "Because of math and old stories?" The Queen didn't answer. She walked back toward her throne, her footsteps heavy. When she reached it, she didn't sit. She just stood there, one hand gripping the armrest so hard that Taesung heard the crystal crack. "If you are the protector," she said finally, "then killing you might fulfill the prophecy's darker path, but letting you live might empower what remains of humanity." She turned to look at him. "I need to know the truth. Tell me everything about how you found that pendant. Tell me now and leave nothing out." Taesung took a deep breath. The pendant felt warm against his chest, almost alive. He didn't know what any of this meant, but for the first time since his capture, the Queen looked uncertain. That gave him something he hadn't felt in months: hope. Taesung sat on the cold floor of the execution chamber, his bound hands resting in his lap. The Queen had ordered a chair brought for herself, and now she sat across from him, leaning forward with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Her 3 silver eyes never left his face. "Start from the beginning," she said. "How did a human engineer come to possess an artifact of the firstborn?" Taesung closed his eyes, letting his mind drift back to a time before the war. It felt like a lifetime ago, though it had only been 5 years. He was a different person then, full of excitement about the future instead of grief about the past. "It was 2 years before your ships arrived," he began. "I was part of an archaeological team on Mars. We were exploring the Valles Marineris Canyon system, looking for signs of ancient water flows. The team leader was a woman named Dr. Hana Kim. She believed there might be fossil evidence deep in the canyon walls." The Queen nodded, but said nothing, waiting for him to continue. "We were using ground-penetrating radar to map the subsurface structures when we found something strange. There was a void space about 200 meters down, perfectly geometric. Too perfect to be natural. Dr. Kim wanted to investigate, so we spent 3 weeks drilling an access shaft." Taesung opened his eyes and looked at the pendant hanging around his neck. Even now, even after everything, it still fascinated him. The symbols seemed to move in the light, forming patterns that were almost readable but not quite. "When we finally broke through, we found a chamber. Not a cave, a chamber. The walls were smooth, made of a material we couldn't identify. There were carvings everywhere, symbols like these on the pendant. We set up lights and started documenting everything. Dr. Kim was so excited she could barely hold her camera steady." "How large was this chamber?" the Queen asked. "About the size of this execution room, maybe bigger." It was hard to tell because the walls seemed to absorb light. There were structures inside, pillars maybe, or machines. We couldn't figure out their purpose. Everything was covered in dust, untouched for... Well, we didn't know how long. The Queen stood up and began pacing. "Continue." "I was examining one of the pillars when the floor beneath me gave way. It just collapsed. I fell about 10 meters before I hit something solid. When I got my breath back and turned on my helmet light, I realized I was in a smaller chamber beneath the first one. Tae-sung remembered the fear he felt in that moment, alone in the dark, not knowing if his team could reach him. His radio was damaged in the fall. For all he knew, the entire structure might collapse at any moment. There was something in the center of that lower chamber, a pedestal, made of the same unknown material as everything else. And floating above it, held in some kind of energy field, was this pendant. The field was glowing with a soft blue light. It was the only light source in the entire chamber. "Did you touch it immediately?" the Queen asked. "No, I'm an engineer, not an idiot. I tried to contact my team first, but my radio was dead. I circled the pedestal, examining it from every angle. There were more symbols carved into its base, more complex than the ones on the walls above. I took pictures with my helmet camera, recorded everything I could see. Then what happened? I made a mistake," Tae-sung said quietly. "I tried to get a closer look at the symbols. I leaned over the pedestal, and my hand brushed against the energy field. The moment I touched it, everything changed. The memory was vivid in his mind. The blue light had flared so bright it was painful. The energy field collapsed instantly, and the pendant dropped into his hand. The moment his fingers closed around it, he felt a shock run through his entire body. It wasn't painful exactly, but it was overwhelming. Like every nerve was suddenly alive with electricity. "The pendant bonded to me," Tae-sung said. "I don't know how else to describe it. I tried to drop it, but it wouldn't leave my hand. Then the chain materialized out of nowhere and wrapped around my neck. I panicked. I pulled at it, tried to break it, but nothing worked. The pendant just stayed. And then, the Queen had stopped pacing. She was standing very still, watching him with an expression he couldn't read. Then the structure started to collapse. I could hear rumbling from above, feel the ground shaking. I ran for the hole I'd fallen through, but debris was already falling. I barely made it out before the entire lower chamber sealed itself behind me. The floor had repaired itself somehow, perfectly smooth, like there was never a hole at all. What about your team? They were already evacuating. The whole structure was coming down. We ran for the access shaft, climbed as fast as we could. Dr. Kim was behind me and I heard her scream. When I looked back, one of the pillars had fallen. It crushed her legs. I tried to go back for her, but the others pulled me away. They said there was no time, that we'd all die if we didn't leave immediately. Tae-sung's voice broke slightly. He had carried that guilt for years. Dr. Kim and 2 other team members died in that collapse. He survived because he was younger, faster, and because he'd been at the front of the group running for the exit. The entire structure collapsed into the canyon floor. When we returned with rescue teams the next day, there was nothing left. Just rocks and dust. We searched for any sign of the chamber, any artifacts, anything. It was like it had never existed. The only proof we ever found it was this pendant and the data in my helmet camera. The Queen walked closer to him. "Could you remove the pendant after that day?" "No, I tried everything. Doctors, scientists, even a jewelry cutter. Nothing could break the chain. Nothing could separate the pendant from my skin. Eventually, I just accepted it. It became part of me." The Queen reached out slowly, her hand trembling slightly. "May I?" Tae-sung nodded. She touched the pendant with one long finger and immediately pulled back like she'd been burned. Her eyes widened in surprise. "It recognizes you as its bearer," she said. "The bond is complete." "This is worse than I thought." "Worse? What do you mean?" The Queen walked back to her chair and sat down heavily. For a moment she looked tired, almost vulnerable. "I told you about the prophecy, but I did not tell you everything. It is a secret known only to Vrexian royalty, passed down through generations." She took a deep breath before continuing. "The firstborn created many things before they vanished. They built networks of knowledge across the galaxy. They seeded worlds with life. They established the physical laws that govern our technology. But they also created safeguards. They feared that younger species might misuse their gifts, might become arrogant or destructive." "Safeguards?" Tae-sung asked. "Yes, the prophecy speaks of a test. The chosen protector would emerge when the galaxy faced a crisis of its own making. This protector would carry the seal you wear, and they would be given the power to judge whether galactic civilization deserved to continue. But the prophecy also warned that trying to prevent the protector's emergence would itself trigger the crisis." Tae-sung felt cold. "You're saying that by invading Earth you started this?" "Perhaps. I do not know. Our scholars debated this for decades. Some believed the prophecy was just a story. Others believed it was real, but that we could avoid it through careful action. The ruling council decided that eliminating potential protector worlds was the safest course. We have destroyed 12 civilizations in the past 1,000 years, always with the same justification. 12. Taesung whispered. You've committed genocide 12 times because of a prophecy? The Queen's eyes met his, and for the first time he saw something like shame in them. We told ourselves we were protecting the galaxy. We believed that sacrificing a few worlds was acceptable if it preserved the many. But now seeing you here wearing that pendant, I wonder if we were wrong about everything. They sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Taesung spoke. So what happens now? You still haven't told me if you're going to kill me or not. The Queen stood up. There is an ancient ritual, one that predates even the Empire. It is called the Trial of Worth. If you truly are the protector, you must prove that humanity deserves to exist. You must pass 3 challenges that test the qualities the firstborn valued most. And if I fail, then I will execute you, and we will deal with whatever consequences follow. She turned to her guards. Take him to a proper cell. Give him food, water, clean clothes. The trial begins tomorrow. As the guards lifted Taesung to his feet, he looked at the Queen one last time. Why are you doing this? Why not just kill me now and be done with it? The Queen was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised him. Because I have a daughter. Had a daughter. She died believing that I was wrong about humanity. I want to know if she was right. The new cell was nothing like the hole Taesung had spent 3 months in. It had a real bed, a bathroom, even a window that showed the stars outside. They gave him clean clothes, human-style food, and water that didn't taste like metal. He ate until his stomach hurt, then collapsed on the bed and slept for what felt like days. When he woke up, a Vrexian guard was standing at the door. The Queen summons you, the guard said. His voice was less hostile than before, almost respectful. Word must have spread about the pendant. They led him through the ship's corridors to a massive arena. The space was even larger than the execution chamber, with high walls and seating for thousands of spectators. The seats were empty now, but Taesung could see cameras mounted everywhere. This would be broadcast just like his execution was supposed to be. Queen Naravel stood in the center of the arena, her armor gleaming under the bright lights. Beside her was something that made Taesung's blood run cold. It was a war construct, a machine he recognized from the battlefield. These things had torn through human defensive lines like they were made of paper. It stood at least 15 meters tall, with multiple arms ending in weapons and tools. Its armor was thick enough to shrug off missile strikes. The first challenge tests ingenuity, the Queen announced. Her voice echoed through the arena, amplified by speakers. This war construct contains 3 Vrexian operators hardwired into its systems. They cannot leave without surgery. Your task is to disable the construct without killing them. You have 1 hour. Taesung stared at the machine. You want me to take that thing apart without hurting the people inside? Yes, if you kill even 1 operator, you fail. If you cannot disable it within the time limit, you fail. The Queen gestured to a table near the arena wall. You may use any tools on that table. Nothing else. Taesung walked to the table. There were basic engineering tools, nothing special. Wrenches, cutters, a portable welder, some electronic equipment. Nothing that could penetrate the construct's armor, and certainly nothing that could reach the operators buried deep inside. The construct powered up with a deep humming sound. Its weapons tracked him as he moved. It wasn't going to just stand there and let him work. This was a real combat scenario. Taesung's mind raced. Fighting the construct directly was impossible. He was one human with hand tools against a war machine. Even if he had a rocket launcher, he'd probably just kill the operators inside when it exploded. He needed a different approach. He thought back to his training as a combat engineer. These constructs were powerful but complex. They needed massive amounts of power to operate, distributed through networks of conduits and nodes throughout their structure. The operators controlled the construct through neural interfaces, but those interfaces required constant power flow to function. The construct took a step toward him, its weapons charging. Taesung ran, diving behind a barrier as plasma bolts scorched the ground where he'd been standing. His heart hammered in his chest. He needed to think, but the machine wasn't going to give him time. Then he saw it. On the construct's left leg, partially hidden by armor plating, was a maintenance port. These ports were designed for field repairs, giving engineers access to internal systems without dismantling the entire machine. If he could reach it, he might be able to disrupt the power flow. The problem was getting there without being killed. The construct was tracking his every move, and its weapons could fire faster than he could run. He needed a distraction. Tae-sung grabbed the portable welder from the tool table. He set it to maximum output, then threw it across the arena. The construct's sensors immediately locked onto the heat signature, weapons swiveling to track the flying object. It fired, and the welder exploded in a shower of sparks. In that moment of distraction, Tae-sung sprinted toward the construct's left side. He could hear the weapon swiveling back toward him, hear the charging whine of plasma coils. He wasn't going to make it. He dove forward, sliding across the smooth arena floor. Plasma bolts streaked over his head, so close he could feel the heat. His hand found the maintenance port and yanked it open. Inside was a mess of cables and conduits glowing with energy. The construct's leg moved, trying to shake him off. Tae-sung held on desperately, his other hand grabbing his multi-tool from his pocket. He could see the power distribution node now, a cylindrical device about the size of his fist. It was protected by a metal cage, but the cage had ventilation slots. An idea formed. Crazy, dangerous, but it might work. Tae-sung took the restraint cuff they'd given him back in his cell, the one they'd removed when they brought him to the new quarters. It was made of a conductive metal, designed to deliver electric shocks if prisoners misbehaved. He'd kept it in his pocket without really thinking about why. He jammed the cuff through the ventilation slots and wedged it against the power node. Then he used his multi-tool to short-circuit the cuff's power cell. Sparks flew as electricity surged through the makeshift connection, directly into the power node. The construct froze. Its weapons stopped tracking. The humming sound died down to a low whine. The entire machine was locked in place, its systems overwhelmed by the sudden power surge. The safety protocols had kicked in, shutting down all non-essential functions to protect the operators inside. Tae-sung pulled himself out from under the construct's leg and stood up, breathing hard. The arena was silent. Queen Naravel walked toward him slowly. She examined the construct, then looked at the open maintenance port. "You disabled it from the inside," she said. "By overloading a single node, you triggered the safety shutdown." "The operators are fine," Tae-sung said. "Their life support runs on a separate power system. They'll be uncomfortable until you pull them out, but they're not hurt." The Queen stared at him for a long moment. "You deliberately allowed yourself to be captured by the construct's targeting system. You used its own aggression against it." "Seemed like the best option," Tae-sung said. "This is how the Firstborn fought," the Queen said quietly. "They never met force with force. They found the precise point where a small action could create large changes." "You do not fight like a human. I fight like an engineer," Tae-sung corrected. "Find the weak point, apply pressure, let the system defeat itself." The Queen nodded slowly. "You have passed the first challenge." She gestured to the guards. "Take him back to his cell. He will need rest before the second trial." As they led him away, Tae-sung glanced back at the construct. Technicians were already swarming over it, working to extract the operators. He'd won this round, but something the Queen said bothered him. He didn't fight like a human? What did that mean? That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the Queen's daughter. She had died believing her mother was wrong about humanity. What had she seen that made her think humans deserved to live? The next morning came too quickly. The guards arrived at his door again, but this time they looked grim. "The second challenge awaits," one of them said. They brought him to a different kind of room. It was smaller than the arena, with walls covered in screens. In the center was a control console. Queen Naravel was already there, her expression unreadable. "The second challenge tests empathy," she said. "You will make a choice. On one screen you see human prisoners, survivors from Proxima Station. On the other screen you see a Vrexian civilian transport carrying families returning from a colony world. Human resistance fighters are planning to attack the transport as revenge for Earth's destruction." Tae-sung looked at the screens. On the left he saw faces he recognized. Soldiers he'd served with, people he'd thought were dead. They were in a prison cell, thin and tired but alive. On the right he saw Vrexian families. Children playing, parents holding babies, elderly couples sitting together. "You have information about the resistance attack that they do not," the Queen continued. "You can use this console to send a warning to the transport, but doing so will reveal the resistance cell's location. My forces will destroy them and execute your fellow humans in retaliation." Or you can remain silent, save your comrades, and let the civilians die. Tae-sung felt sick. This isn't a test of empathy. It's a test of loyalty. No, the Queen said. It is a test of whether you can see past your own species. Whether you can value life itself, not just human life. Tae-sung looked at the screens again. The human prisoners were watching something off camera. Probably a screen showing them this same choice. They would know what he decided. The Vrexian families had no idea they were in danger. The children were laughing. His hand moved to the console before he even realized he'd made a decision. He input the warning code and sent it to the transport. On the screen, alarms began flashing. The transport changed course, accelerating away from the ambush point. Why? The Queen asked softly. Tae-sung looked at her. Because children are children. It doesn't matter what species they are. I won't let kids die just to save myself or my friends. The Queen touched a control and the screens changed. The human prisoners appeared, but they weren't being executed. They were being released, walked into a different room with food and medical care. There was no resistance attack, the Queen said. That was a fabrication. But your fellow humans did watch you make your choice. Several of them are crying. Because I betrayed them? No, the Queen said. Because you proved that we were wrong about your species. Tae-sung stood in his cell, looking out the window at the stars. 2 challenges done, 1 more to go. He should have felt relieved, but something was bothering him. The Queen's tests felt less like challenges and more like she was trying to prove something to herself. Or maybe prove something to everyone watching, because people were definitely watching. The guards had told him that the trials were being broadcast across the entire empire. Millions of Vrexians were seeing a human pass test that most of them probably thought were impossible. He wondered what they thought about that. The door opened and Queen Naravel entered alone. No guards, no officials, just her. She looked different somehow. Tired, maybe. Or uncertain. Tae-sung had never seen her look uncertain before. The 3rd challenge will not happen, she said. Tae-sung turned from the window. What do you mean? There is an emergency. The Cathara have awakened. She said it like he should know what that meant. When he stared at her blankly, she continued. They are machine intelligences created by the firstborn. They have been dormant for millions of years. Until now. Why now? Tae-sung asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Because of that. The Queen pointed at his pendant. The moment you bonded with it, you activated ancient systems across the galaxy. The Cathara are one of those systems. They are a test to safeguard the firstborn left behind. A safeguard against what? Against us. Against any civilization that might misuse firstborn technology. The Queen walked to the window and stood beside him. The Cathara were programmed to activate if any species attempted to prevent the prophecy. By destroying potential protector worlds, by killing your people in the 11 civilizations before you, we triggered them. Tae-sung felt his stomach drop. How bad is it? They have already destroyed 3 Vrexian colonies. 16 billion dead. They are spreading through our territory, converting our own machines against us. Our weapons cannot stop them because they are made from the same technology the Cathara control. We are fighting an enemy that turns our strength into weakness. The Queen's voice was calm, but Tae-sung could hear the fear underneath. This was an empire that had never lost a war, never faced a threat it couldn't crush with overwhelming force. Now they were helpless. What do you want from me? Tae-sung asked. The pendant is the key. Only the bearer can access Cathara systems and deactivate them. But reaching their central core means traveling through their corrupted network. Your neural implants, the ones all human soldiers have, might allow you to navigate where we cannot. You are adaptable in ways we are not. So after everything you've done to humanity, you want me to save your empire? The Queen turned to look at him. Her 3 eyes met his, and he saw something he never expected to see from her. Regret. Yes. But I am not asking you to do this for the empire. I am asking you to do this for the innocent people who are dying right now. Children who had no part in the decisions their leaders made. Families who never wanted war with anyone. Tae-sung thought about the Vrexian transport from the 2nd challenge. The families, the children playing. They hadn't destroyed Earth. They were just living their lives. And if I refuse? Then the Cathara will continue spreading. Eventually they will reach what remains of humanity. Your survivors in the outer colonies will die too. The Cathara do not discriminate. They will eradicate all advanced civilization in this galaxy. Sounds like the firstborn were real charmers, Tae-sung muttered. Build safeguards that kill everyone. They believed in testing, the Queen said. If a civilization could not learn cooperation, could not move past conquest and genocide, then perhaps it did not deserve to survive. And you think we can pass their test? The species that was trying to kill each other until 5 minutes ago? The Queen was silent for a moment. Then she said something that surprised him. I need to show you something. Come with me. She led him through the ship's corridors to her private quarters. The room was large but simple, decorated with what looked like family items. Pictures on the walls, small sculptures, a desk covered in documents. She walked to the desk and picked up a holographic projector. When she activated it, an image appeared, a young Vrexian woman, maybe 20 in human years. She had the same silver eyes as the Queen, the same proud bearing. She was smiling in the image, which was strange to see on a Vrexian face. This is Da'un, the Queen said. My daughter. She died 6 months ago. I'm sorry, Taesung said and meant it. She was killed by her own people, executed for treason. The Queen's voice was flat, emotionless, but her hands trembled slightly. She opposed the invasion of Earth. She believed that humanity should be studied, learned from, not destroyed. She organized protests, wrote documents arguing for peace. She tried to make me see reason. But you didn't listen. No, I told her she was young and foolish. I told her that the prophecy was real, and that humanity was too dangerous to allow to exist. We argued for months. Then she did something unforgivable. She tried to send a warning to Earth to tell you the invasion was coming. Taesung's breath caught. A warning. If Earth had known even a few months earlier, maybe they could have prepared better. Maybe more people would have survived. She tried to save us. Yes, we caught her before the message could be sent. The council demanded execution for treason. I tried to protect her, but the law was clear. She chose to die rather than renounce her beliefs. The Queen deactivated the hologram. Her last words to me were that I would realize too late that I was wrong, that I was destroying the galaxy I claimed to protect. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Taesung didn't know what to say. He'd spent so long hating the Vrexians, seeing them as monsters. But the Queen was just a mother who had lost her daughter. A leader who had made terrible choices and now had to live with them. I see her in you, the Queen said finally. Not physically, but in your choices. When you saved those civilian families instead of your own comrades, I saw the same conviction she had, the same ability to look past tribal loyalty and see the larger picture. Is that why you're really doing all this? The trials, the testing? You're trying to figure out if your daughter was right? Partly, but also because I'm afraid. The Cathara are proof that we were wrong about the prophecy. We tried to prevent it and instead caused it. If you truly are the protector, if that pendant chose you for a reason, then maybe there is still a chance to fix what we have broken. Taesung looked at the pendant hanging around his neck. It was warm against his chest, warmer than usual. Almost like it was reacting to the conversation. If I do this, if I somehow stop the Cathara, what happens then? Does your empire just go back to conquering and destroying? I do not know, the Queen admitted. But I can promise you this. If you help us, if you prove that cooperation is possible, I will use every bit of my power to change how we operate. No more preemptive genocide, no more destroying civilizations out of fear. We will become what we always claimed to be, protectors instead of conquerors. That's a big promise. Yes, and I may not be able to keep it. The Council may remove me from power. They may execute me the same way they executed my daughter, but I will try. Taesung walked back to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Cathara were destroying colonies, killing billions, and somewhere else human survivors were hiding, hoping to live another day. If he did nothing, they all died. If he tried and failed, they all died anyway. But if he tried and succeeded, maybe something could change. Okay, he said. I'll do it. But I need a team. I can't do this alone. I have already selected your team, the Queen said. She pressed a button on her desk and the door opened. A Vrexian warrior walked in, tall and scarred, with armor that showed signs of many battles. This is Jiwoo. She served under my daughter and still believes in her vision. She has volunteered to accompany you. Jiwoo gave a formal salute. I am honored to serve the protector. I'm not a protector, Taesung said. I'm just an engineer with a pendant he doesn't understand. Then we learn together, Jiwoo said. And maybe we survive. Taesung looked at the Queen one more time. When do we leave? Immediately. Every hour we delay, more people die. The shuttle ride to Cathara space was tense and quiet. Tae-sung sat in the passenger compartment with Ji-woo and 4 other Vrexian warriors the Queen had assigned to the mission. None of them spoke much. What was there to say? They were flying into territory controlled by ancient machines that had already destroyed 3 colonies. Most suicide missions had better odds. Tae-sung spent the time studying the data the Queen had provided. The Cathara Central Core was located in a dead star system, a place that had been abandoned for millions of years. According to the records, it was surrounded by layers of automated defenses and corrupted networks. Getting there would require navigating through systems that would try to kill them at every step. The pendant felt heavy around his neck. Warm, almost hot, like it was responding to their destination. He touched it occasionally, feeling the strange symbols carved into its surface. The Firstborn had created this thing millions of years ago, knowing that someday someone would need it. Had they known it would be a human? Had they planned for everything, or were they just hoping someone would figure it out? "You are nervous," Ji-woo said, breaking the silence. She sat across from him, her armor reflecting the shuttle's dim lights. "Wouldn't you be?" Tae-sung asked. "I am terrified," Ji-woo admitted, "but I am also grateful. Your people and mine, we should never have been enemies." Da-yoon believed this. She died believing this. Now I have a chance to prove she was right. "Tell me about her," Tae-sung said. "The Queen's daughter. What was she like?" Ji-woo's expression softened, which was strange to see on a Vrexian face. She was brilliant, curious about everything. She spent years studying human culture from long-range observations before the invasion. She learned your languages, studied your art and music, read your philosophy. She believed humanity had something unique, something the galaxy needed. What made her think that? Your stories. She loved human stories, especially your science fiction. She said that humans always dreamed of the stars, always imagined meeting other species and working together. Most species, when they dream of space, they dream of conquest or resources. Humans dreamed of friendship. Tae-sung thought about all the science fiction he'd read as a kid. Star Trek, Mass Effect, The Expanse. Stories where humanity joined galactic communities, learned from aliens, and built something together. Those were just stories. Maybe, but stories shape who we become. Tae-yoon believed that a species that tells itself stories about cooperation has the potential to actually achieve it. The Empire saw humanity as a threat because you are adaptable and stubborn. She saw you as hope because of those same qualities. The shuttle shuddered as they entered the dead star system. Outside the windows, Tae-sung could see debris fields and derelict structures. This place felt wrong, like a graveyard on a planetary scale. "We are approaching the outer defense perimeter," the pilot announced, detecting multiple contacts. "They are not friendly." The shuttle's weapon systems came online. Through the windows, Tae-sung saw them. Machines of impossible complexity moving through space like predators. They were made of the same dark material as the chamber where he'd found the pendant. Cathara constructs ancient and deadly. The shuttle's guns fired, destroying 2 of the machines before the rest scattered. More appeared from behind asteroid fragments, dozens of them, then hundreds. The shuttle wove through the debris field, dodging weapons fire that tore through space like burning lines. "We cannot reach the core if this continues," Ji-woo said. "There are too many." Tae-sung looked at his pendant. It was glowing now, pulsing with a soft blue light. On impulse, he pressed it against the shuttle's control panel. The moment the pendant made contact, something changed. The Cathara machine stopped firing. They were still following the shuttle, but they weren't attacking anymore. "What did you do?" the pilot asked. "I have no idea," Tae-sung said honestly. "But I think the pendant is talking to them, telling them I'm supposed to be here." They continued toward the core with a swarm of Cathara machines following at a distance. It felt like being escorted by a pack of wolves, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The central core was a structure the size of a small moon, made entirely of the dark material. It pulsed with energy, networks of light running across its surface like veins. As the shuttle approached, a portal opened, large enough for them to fly through. Inside was something impossible to describe. The space was vast, filled with geometric patterns that hurt to look at. Platforms floated in the air with no visible support. At the center of it all was a sphere of pure light so bright that Tae-sung had to look away. "The Cathara Prime," Ji-woo whispered. "The core intelligence." They landed the shuttle on one of the platforms. The moment Tae-sung stepped out, The light from the sphere focused on him like a spotlight. A voice filled the space, speaking directly into his mind. It didn't use words exactly, more like concepts that translated themselves into meaning. Bearer of the seal, you have come to stop us. Yes, Tae-sung said out loud, not sure if he needed to speak or if thinking was enough. You're killing billions of innocent people. We are fulfilling our purpose. The young species have failed the test. They chose destruction over cooperation. They must be removed so new species can try again. That's insane. You're judging entire civilizations based on the actions of their leaders. Most of the people dying right now never made those choices. Irrelevant. A civilization is defined by the choices its leaders make and the actions its people allow. The Vrexian Empire has destroyed 12 species. Your species was targeted for the same fate. Both have failed. Tae-sung felt anger rising in him. So what, you just kill everyone and start over? Hope the next batch does better? Yes, this has happened 6 times before in this galaxy's history. Each time, the younger species repeat the same mistakes. Each time we remove them and allow new life to evolve. That's not a test, that's genocide on a galactic scale. It is necessary. The firstborn learned through painful experience that unchecked civilizations destroy everything, including themselves. Better to end the cycle early than allow it to consume the galaxy. Jiwoo stepped forward. What about those who want to change? What about those who recognize their mistakes and try to do better? The light shifted, focusing on her. Individuals change. Civilizations rarely do. The patterns repeat across millennia. The young species cannot see past their own greed and fear. Tae-sung looked at his pendant. It was burning hot against his chest now. He could feel something building inside it, like pressure waiting to be released. You said I'm the bearer of the seal. What does that actually mean? You have the authority to judge. You can deactivate us, end the purge, but only if you can prove that cooperation is possible. Only if representatives of multiple species work together to do what no single species can achieve alone. What kind of proof? The sphere pulsed, and suddenly the space was filled with symbols, thousands of them, floating in the air. The deactivation code. It requires input from 12 different species, all working in harmony. The code must be entered simultaneously, with each species contributing their unique understanding of mathematics and logic. No single species has the knowledge to complete it alone. It was designed this way intentionally. Tae-sung looked at Jiwoo. 12 species. That's how many the Vrexians destroyed. Yes, the Cathara Prime said. Ironic, is it not? The number of species that must cooperate equals the number that were eliminated. Perhaps this was always meant to be impossible. Or maybe, Tae-sung said slowly, the firstborn believed that facing impossible situations is what forces people to work together. He activated his communication device. Queen Naravel, can you hear me? The queen's voice came through immediately. I hear you. What is happening? I need you to do something. Broadcast a message to every species in the galaxy. Tell them what's happening. Tell them that the Cathara can only be stopped if 12 species work together to input a deactivation code. Tell them we need their help. There was a long pause. They will not trust us. We have conquered most of them. Then don't ask them to trust you. Ask them to trust me. I'm just a human who doesn't want to see anyone else die, Vrexian or otherwise. Let me talk to them. Another pause, then. Very well. You have a direct channel to the entire galaxy. Speak. Tae-sung took a deep breath. This was it. Everything came down to this moment. My name is Tae-sung. I'm a human from Earth, or what used to be Earth. The Vrexian Empire destroyed my home and killed my people. I have every reason to hate them, to want revenge, to let them die at the hands of the Cathara. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But I've learned something these past few days. The people who made the decision to destroy Earth, they don't represent every Vrexian. Just like the leaders of the Cathara don't represent the will of every species. We're all trapped in systems created by people who came before us, following patterns that lead nowhere good. His hand touched the pendant. The firstborn left us a test. Not a test to see if we can destroy each other. We've already proven we're great at that. They want to know if we can work together when it matters most. If we can look past old grudges and current pain to build something better. I can't force anyone to help. I can only tell you what I've seen. I've seen a Vrexian warrior volunteer for a suicide mission to fix her empire's mistakes. I've seen a queen willing to risk her throne to honor her daughter's beliefs. I've seen that change is possible even in the darkest situations. So I'm asking, Not demanding, not begging, just asking. If there are representatives from 12 species willing to work with us, willing to put aside everything that divides us for just one moment, we can stop this. We can show the firstborn that their faith in us wasn't misplaced. The choice is yours. Choose revenge and we all die. Choose hope and maybe we build something worth saving. The transmission ended. The chamber was silent except for the humming of the Cathara Prime. Tae-sung waited, his heart pounding. This could all be for nothing. The species might refuse. They might not respond in time. They might... Receiving transmission, Jiwoo said, checking her device. Multiple species are responding. They are sending representatives to input their portions of the code. One by one, signals came in. Species that the Vrexians had conquered. Species that had remained neutral. Even species that had conflicts with each other. 12 different voices, 12 different perspectives, all agreeing to try. The code input took hours. Each species had to analyze their section, understand the mathematical principles involved, translate it through their unique ways of thinking. Tae-sung watched as symbols filled the air, each one representing a different form of logic and understanding. When the 12th input was completed, the Cathara Prime's light began to dim. Cooperation achieved. The test is passed. We will deactivate. Just like that? Tae-sung asked. Just like that. The firstborn trusted that if a moment like this could occur, the younger species deserved a chance to continue. You have proven that trust was not misplaced. We will sleep again, waiting to see what you build with this opportunity. The sphere of light collapsed inward and vanished. The Cathara machines across the galaxy would be powering down. Their threat ended. The chamber began to dissolve around them, geometric patterns fading like mist. They returned to the shuttle and flew back through the debris field, past the now dormant Cathara constructs. When they reached the Queen's flagship, a crowd was waiting. Not just Vrexians, but representatives from other species who had contributed to the code. All of them had come to see the human who had united the galaxy. Queen Naravel met him at the airlock. She bowed formally, the first time Tae-sung had seen her bow to anyone. You have saved us all. The Galactic Council has agreed to form a new government, one based on cooperation rather than conquest. You have been appointed as Earth's representative. Tae-sung looked at the pendant. It was cool now, dormant. Its purpose fulfilled. I'm not a diplomat. I'm just an engineer. You are the protector, the Queen said. Not because of the pendant, but because of the choices you made. My daughter would have been proud. Months passed. The galaxy slowly transformed. The Vrexian Empire became the Vrexian Commonwealth. Conquered species regained their autonomy. Earth's survivors returned to their solar system to begin rebuilding. Construction ships from dozens of species worked together, turning ruins into new cities. Tae-sung stood on the surface of Mars near where he'd found the pendant years ago. The canyon system was still there, but the firstborn chamber was long gone. Jiwoo stood beside him, now his official liaison and friend. What do you think happens next? She asked. I don't know, Tae-sung admitted. We'll probably screw something up. Make new mistakes, but maybe that's okay. Maybe the point isn't to be perfect. Maybe it's just to keep trying, keep learning, keep working together. Da-eun would have liked you, Jiwoo said. I wish I could have met her. They watched the sunset together, human and Vrexian, looking at a future that neither of their species could have imagined just a year ago. The pendant around Tae-sung's neck caught the light one last time, a reminder of the past and a promise for the future. The stars above them shone bright, and for the first time in a long time they represented hope instead of fear.